Well, Carl Randazzo is with me today from the United Board, and yesterday they had their... Day before yesterday, that's right. On Wednesday, they had their meeting of the MNC Committee, and you're going to go over some of the highlights of that meeting. So welcome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yeah, we had a good meeting, a lot of lively discussion like we normally do with the United MNC Committee, okay? There were a number of things we discussed, but there were three key issues that I think need to be addressed, okay? We had some votes on these particular items. So
okay.
The first was a presentation that was made by our energy consultant, TEC. They had done their work in two phases. The first phase was to address our infrastructure, and the second phase was going to be using our infrastructure and seeing whether or not we needed to improve our infrastructure for doing any sort of EV charging stations, okay? So they completed the phase one portion of the work, and they were doing a report on it. And then they addressed the phase two work. And the phase two work, as I say, would address infrastructure changes that would need to be made to provide power to each carport in order to charge electric vehicles. Based on some preliminary costs that have been presented to us, it has been determined that this cost is too high for us to sustain. So it seems that carport infrastructure upgrades are not on the list of things to do in the near term. We will need to put a plan into effect that addresses the location of charging stations in United at strategic locations where power is available without making major modifications that would cost us a lot. In United, most of these locations are near the standalone laundry rooms. This work would be planned to roll out over the next number of years, and the first locations would be selected based on the largest concentration of electric vehicles in the community. And we have certain pockets whereby we do have a lot of electric vehicles located. We will work on this plan and see that it is addressed in the 2021 budget. Due to this decision, we voted to not exercise our option to have TEC work on phase two, since we know now what we need to do. We can use the money we would have used for this endeavor to develop a plan for locating the EV chargers within United. This would include reviewing our power requirements in those strategic areas and consult with Southern California Edison to ask them to upgrade our power requirements in those areas as required. And in those areas, there are transformers and conductors in the ground, okay, that may need to be upgraded. And we were told by SEC that if we tell them where we need the additional power, they would provide it upstream of the meter. Downstream of the meter is all by us.
Right.
So at this particular point in time, we would locate those places within the laundry areas at strategic locations where it would be best served, and then we would try to institute that, have SEC upgrade their requirements on their side of the meter, and then we would have to do it on our side of the meter. And there would be some cost to us on our side of the meter, but on their side of the meter, that would be by them.
All right. And of course, this is, you know, in the future, it could be a selling point for here.
That's exactly what we're thinking.
But also, I just know for us, my wife has a hybrid electric car, and she plugs it in now and then. But we park outside. Our garage is full of stuff. You got to run the cord in. And if I ever got a vehicle like that, there would not be another outlet that's available.
Right.
It would be too much draw off of the one because it's just the 110. So just for a standard home, it's difficult, let alone potentially hundreds and hundreds of charging stations.
And the carports right now, okay, each particular circuit for a carport only has a 20 amp circuit. So if you plug in, if there's 4 or 5 or 10 cars in that carport, okay, if each person plugs in, each electric vehicle draws anywhere between 12 and 15 amps. So you can't, 12 into 20 doesn't go more than once, okay?
Right,
so under the circumstances, it can't happen. So we have to locate these at other locations because to upgrade all the infrastructure in those carports is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
We then discussed United's project log to determine if we could delay or reduce any of this year's planned work activities and use that money on possibly more important projects. We were able, based on our discussion, we were able to defer or defund certain projects, and as a result of this decision, we were provided with additional funding that could be used to get a head start on drainage problems and flooding in this community. These flooding and drainage problems, okay, sometimes undermine the foundations, especially when the gutters are not able to maintain it, okay, they cascade over, they dump down into the ground, and then they just drive into the ground and they undermine the foundation, and we'd like to basically see if we can address some of that. Of note regarding this defunding is the funding reduction that was made for the replacement of the barbed wire fencing with the Shepherd's Crook fencing. We've had a lot of people that have questioned why we were changing out the barbed wire for the Shepherd's Crooks. Per the city requirements, United is required to upgrade 300 feet of fencing each year, which was part of the overall 900 feet city requirement per year, where 600 of that is going to 3rd and GRF. So United gets 300, 3rd gets 300, and GRF gets 300. So that's a requirement per the city. In United, we have been installing a lot more than 300 feet per year, thinking that we would complete the whole perimeter in a shorter period of time. However, with other priorities that have come up, we have reassessed this, thinking and we will now, for this year at least, only do the minimum of 300 feet in United and utilize part of those funding for something else. We don't need to put in 900 feet of fencing. We then discussed the revitalization of the United Handyman Program, and I think this is something that people want to hear. As everyone knows, this is a popular program. However, during the first pilot year period, it was determined that it could not be sustained. This new revitalized Handyman Program is now being rolled out in 2 phases. The first phase has already been rolled out and it is in effect. This first phase addresses light-duty handyman services that are not technical in nature, and this work will be implemented by the company called Neighboring. This company has performed services for other residents in the community in the past and has worked with our social services department here in the village. The brochure shown on your screen provides details of the services that they provide. Now, these brochures are all over the village now, and there's a number of them in the community center. They're just, you can pick them up at the various different locations. Please note that all calls for this service must be made to Neighboring itself and not to our resident services department. So when you use that number, please, I will repeat, do not call resident services if you want to have work done by Neighboring, and their phone number is shown on that brochure. Residents do not have to use Neighboring services. All residents have the prerogative to employ whoever they choose to perform these chores. However, the Handyman Task Force and the United Board have reviewed the work that has been done by Neighboring and found that based on their past performance, they have provided a good service, and so far, people that have used them seem to be happy with their work. Please also note that United has also negotiated better rates with them that will be used if Laguna Woods residents call them to ask to perform their services listed in their brochure. And I'd like to note, okay, this is open to everyone in Laguna Woods Village, whether or not you're a Third, United, or whomever, okay? We've negotiated, United's negotiated these rates with them for everyone in the village. I would also like to point out that not everything that they will be able to help you with is listed on their brochure. So if you call them and have a job that you would like them to do, then please ask them if they can do it. Remember, these are mostly non-technical jobs. Please also note that when you use their services, you and Neighboring will be releasing United Laguna Woods Mutual of any liability regarding any of their services that they provide to you. This, however, should not be an issue, Since the services provided by them are light-duty handyman services and no major problems are anticipated when they do the work for which they are hired. Changing light bulbs, changing curtains. I mean, these are just light-duty things that,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, there shouldn't be an issue, okay? But we really do need to be released of any liability, okay? And you're going to be dealing directly with neighboring when you call them. But we vetted them, and we feel that their work, based on past performance, okay,
Yeah.
seems to be acceptable, and the people that have used them seem to be doing very well with their services. Phase 2 of the Handyman Program, which I think is important to a lot of people also, will be presented to the board in March, based on our vote at this past MNC meeting. Phase 2 addresses technical work requiring a plumber, electrician, or a carpenter. This phase will be called chargeable services and only addresses technical services that are to be done by VMS staff. If you live in United, the listed items and associated charges are only apply to items in your manor that are alterations. I will repeat. These charges only apply to work that will be done to or for alterations that were already done to your manor. So if you've got an alteration sink and you want to change out your faucet or what have you, you can't call United, you can't call Resident Services because they will not do any work on that because it's not a freebie because that faucet was put in by you.
Okay.
But you can now call them, and for a charge, they will replace your faucet, replace the cartridge in your faucet, whatever needs to be done, but it will be based on a charge that will be listed on there. Like I mentioned, if your sink or bathtub or electrical item is not an alteration, then when you call Resident Services for repairs to be made to those items, then that service will be done at no cost if it's not an alteration. And for Phase 2 handyman services, you will need to call Resident Services. That's one that you need to call them. We have developed a list of the chargeable services that are associated with Phase 2. I had a chart that I was going to bring with me, but some of the people said since it wasn't officially approved by our board yet, I shouldn't be showing it. But for the most part, it will probably be approved. That list also shows the associated estimated costs, and this listing will be attached to the agenda for our next board meeting, since it was already approved by members of the United MNC Committee at this past meeting. It will now need to pass 2 more votes at the board meeting in March and April, and if it is voted at that meeting, then we will try to roll it out in Phase 2 in late April or early May. And that's all I've got right now on that. Those are the major issues.
Okay, Carl, I appreciate you coming on and giving everyone an update. And I guess the next time around, you'll get more into the chargeable services.
Yeah, chargeable services should already be, should be something after the April meeting, okay? We should basically be able to roll it out.
Okay, very good, and we'll be right back.
Okay, thank you.